Building Hope in the City from its day of founding to today has been about a single thing at the highest level, and that is, how do we make the gospel, the good news of the grace of God and the faith in Jesus and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit, how do we make that tangible out on the street, in the nitty-gritty of life? How do we make that tangible in the face of your neighbor, at your workplace, where you put your head down at night and you put your kids to sleep at night? We're very interested in making the gospel tangible in those places. We've entered into these various programs over the course of 20 years, really by the calling of God and just stumbling into the next need that we would run into, the next population that we would run into. And as that happened, it always seems that God brings at exactly the right moment the next leader, the next church partner, the next staff member, the next board member that is needed to help us really understand and interpret and enter into that particular situation.
I was the first member of the board outside of the 3 founding members. You know, at the beginning stages of nonprofits, nobody has a clue what they're doing. It's kind of a fly by the seat of your pants thing. And when I came on the board, they didn't even have the financials on a computer. They were still doing them on paper. You know, we can count the number of people that come to a program, or the number of dollars that come into Common Threads, or how many candles are sold at Parapeti, or whatever it is you want to count. You can count all that stuff. But that's not the most important impact that Building Hope's had. I've sat in churches where somebody from Building Hope comes and speaks. And whether the people in the pews get involved in Building Hope or not, the way that the staff talks, the way that they tell stories about what God has done, can't have helped but prompt the Holy Spirit in people's hearts to do things that have nothing to do with Building Hope now, but continue that ripple effect in ways that we'll never know.
Whenever you start a nonprofit or whenever you start something new, it always takes risk. And one of the things that I've discovered in working with Building Hope and just serving in Building Hope in the City, the organization, is the organization willing to take risks. And that's what I find so oftentimes that causes organizations not to move forward, is always doing what they've always done in order to save what they have. And that doesn't really transform a city or transform people's lives. And so being able to step out and say, we're going to do something that maybe no one else has done or someone else isn't willing to do, that takes risk. It takes risk in personal relationships. It takes risk financially. It takes risk just saying, hey, we might start this and it might fail, but being willing to be okay with that is super important. And I love that about Building Hope, just willing to take risks, stepping out and going, we're going to try this, and if it doesn't work, great, but we believe it will, and we're willing to take the risk to do it.
Housing, economic development, supporting people resettling in this city. You know, the church typically has not taken those issues on. Building Hope has shown Cleveland how the church can be engaged in those issues, and lives are changed.
I hope that over the past 20 years, Building Hope in the City, as an extension of the church, has helped local congregations put feet to their faith, come to understand that what they receive from the grace of God every Sunday or Saturday night if they go to church, what they have received is meant to be given away. And that often God is calling us to give it away to people who are not like us, to step into contexts that are not familiar to us. And that Building Hope in the City has been a vehicle, an avenue for believers to do just that. And if we weren't here, if we had not been able to provide that, I think the faith and the outreach of hundreds of Christians across our city would look different.
So participation, I think, is key, because if you don't participate, no one's going to know of you or about you or what you have to offer or the love that you have for God, or even doing God's work, because you're not participating and you're not being open. You're not open to participate. Some organizations or small businesses like I was would be afraid or to say, I don't want to do that. You know, I'm just doing my thing. And when they join, then they bring what they have to the table, and it helps us build a better community, right? And better hope and resources to the community. So Jesus, I think it's every step. So it's hard to say how did I see him do so many things here? I mean, they literally built stuff in here for me. I mean, the kindness of their heart. So that is Jesus, us being together and joining and praying before food, a simple sandwich or just something I made for us to eat on, right? That's Jesus. Bringing us to building hope, but to the garden and pulling fruit and sharing. That's Jesus.
The way in which Building Hope in the City breaks down denominational barriers and focuses on the kingdom, if we were missing, we would miss those opportunities. And so that's a wonderful gift, and Building Hope in the City has been hyper-focused on convening the kingdom. So there's no other institution in the city that will bring together faith institutions to work on real issues. People who are active and not people who are contemplating the work. I will come for an invitation with Building Hope in the City because I know that it's going to be substantive. I know that the people at the table are going to do something. And so Building Hope in the City is the best in the city at doing that.
There have been a lot of chapters to Building Hope's story over this past 20 years, and programs have come and gone and new things have emerged. But through it all, I think what has remained core is that we keep first things first. That what God is doing through His church and through the life, death, resurrection, and ministry of Jesus Christ has remained core to who we are. And how can we take that story of God's love affair for the world and God's love affair for Cleveland and God's love affair for all the people who inhabit Cleveland, and how can we keep that front and center? That is something that has not changed over 20 years. And I put a lot of hope in that as our future. I think it's still going to be the key to our future going forward, is that we keep first things first, that we keep Jesus and we keep the heart of God at the center of what we're doing.